Hello, hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
We have our friend Dave back. And if Dave disappears, Dave have some puppers who are going through some things. So, what did you say, Dave? It's not demons you're running from, you're running to your
Right.
puppers.
They're all just right out of, I can like almost reach them over here, but the 19 and a half year old likes to go into like moaning, like you're killing him. And then as soon as you walk towards him, he's like, got you, and he's fine. And then the other ones are all the 13 and the 15-year-old are right here too. And they'll chime in at times. They know when you're busy, they know when you're doing stuff. So they've already all funneled into the office. It's unusual to have all three of them right here, but they know I'm doing something. So.
I think I read somewhere that dogs are like 4 to 5 year olds, and I'm like, that sounds about right. You're on the phone now; they want attention. You're doing something important now; they want attention.
Yep.
Nacho thinks he's a dog, so he does the same thing.
The cat will make an appearance. So I like to see the camera. So I've been room full of animals.
Now I see you've got some upcoming events. I'm like, oh, none close to me, but I do like that you have your intro to demonology classes going on. And I can't wait for ours in November. I've had multiple people reach out and they're like, "Hey, we want you to come vend," and I'm like, "I am already committed." So we will be doing that. Um, so I did have a picture get texted to me from a colleague, and they're like, "What do you think this is?" And before I put it up, this is somebody who had a professional photographer to come out to take pictures to go with their product. It is an author. Um, and this picture disturbed them to the point, like, after they texted it to me while we were standing there talking, like, she immediately deleted it off of her camera roll. She's like, I didn't even like it being on my phone. And I'm like, do tell. Um, Here is that pic.
Hmm.
So,
I'm pretty brutal when I review pictures like this. Um,
mhm,
the first thing I would say is it's blurry, and you can
right.
see the motion moving in a certain direction. So that could easily explain the eyes and the mouth. Um, if you just look down at the belt and the rings that are there, you see that motion blur, everything heading that one direction. So you're going to get that like fade of the teeth and the mouth, making it look like it's open fangs. But that's part of the pareidolia too, that we see something that looks familiar and we put the pieces back together. And I think everyone that looks at that would probably see the same thing, but I think it's a combination of the being blurry and our mind filling in the gaps at the same time.
I did ask to see if she had pictures either right before or right after, because usually a professional photo shoot is not going to have one and done,
Right.
right?
I was
Right.
wondering that too. The previous, after, more images to compare it to. Yeah.
And did not get to see the pictures, was told that pictures before and after in similar position did not have any distortion whatsoever. I just kind
Depending
of,
on depending on how they had the camera set up,
mhm.
what they have the aperture set for, all those different things. The slightest little movement could cause that blur, and no one is, even if you have it like on a tripod outside and you're touching it. It doesn't take much
Yeah.
to cause that effect.
All it takes is like a slight cloud cover, or the sun coming out to mess up your settings very quickly.
Yeah, and I agree with Dave completely on this because of the like he said, the motion and everything. And yeah, it's freaky looking. There's no doubt about it. It's freaky looking, but everything else says it's like a shutter speed or a movement or something like that that was off a little bit. And I think with professional photographs, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, if professional photographs, they'll take 100 pictures before they get 2 good ones.
Yeah,
So this could be one of
and we
those.
don't always see those ones, but there are throwaway ones like this. So,
Right.
And
um,
especially
Yeah.
if the subject was moving at all, whether it's like portrait or animal photography, anything like that. But yeah, there should definitely always be a lot of other pictures. I mean, I just got back from a photography trip in the mountains, and there's a lot of pictures, and a lot of them go in the garbage.
Yeah.
yeah,
But it
once
really
you,
just does take the slightest movement. I was photographing a bear, and none of the pictures came out because the lighting changed so quickly from the sun and the. I wasn't able to adapt to his running quick enough with the lighting changes, and so he looks like a blurry possessed bear. But he was really just an innocent bear running across a busy road and into a field.
I see in the comments that what Melanie, she
Yeah.
asked about a picture or like a face up in the top upper left corner, and this is a perfect example of the pareidolia.
Right.
The whole image is blurry, so you have to disregard every single thing you see because it's not an in focus photo. So your mind is going to map out things that resemble faces, and it's like a prehistoric thing that's built into our minds back
Mhm.
when we were, not the hunter, we were the prey. So the sooner you realize there was something looking at you, the quicker you could respond and get out of there. So that's what I don't see anything up in that corner, but if you look hard enough on a photo like this, you can find multiple things. But they're just it's our mind that's seeing that, not the actual photo.
Yeah,
The
I
other
thought it was interesting, and I'm like, let's see what our fellow wooers think and Dave. And I'm like, I don't really feel anything weird or funky going on. I do kind of get the perception that the author maybe dabbles in some other things that may eventually at some point cause her trouble. But right here, and I'm like, this would be a great promo photo for a horror book, but I don't feel,
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe she should go from writing dark romance into some horror, um,
horror
with this
romance.
author pick.
And maybe she's evolving into it. She just hasn't yet.
Right.
The other thing with things like this, if this was like an actual energetic spirit interaction of any sort, you're almost always going to have some sort of equipment malfunction also, or something weird go on, whether it's like I had all the pictures from that native land disappear last year, if you remember that. Or just other things get distorted, the batteries will die, you'll get like grainy lines, like other things tend to happen, not just one picture with movement. Typically, not always, of course, but for the most part, that's another thing to watch for.
Yeah. Yeah, this picture that we were looking at, it's notorious too for cell phone pictures. I anything that somebody takes with a cell phone, I completely rule out because the cell phones just their shutter speed and things like that can create anomalies like that. And
Mhm.
that look just like that, and people are like, "Oh my god, look," where actually it's the cell phone itself. Now, this is a professional photographer with a professional camera and everything, but that's also kind of like I said, if there was any type of movement at all, or the shutter speed was off for whatever reason, there's so many
Mhm.
different things that could create that. Would you agree, Dave?
I think the cameras on the phones have come a long way. Um, some of them are. I mean, I know I have the Ultra Samsung Ultra S25, so it's got 5 cameras on it, and some of the photos there are going to be higher resolution than I've seen some cameras taking. Some like the higher end professional. So there's a possibility, I think, for any camera to have an anomaly that just you can't explain. But that's kind of when I see stuff, even if it's in a digital photo from a camera, it's still that. It's something that I can't explain. Um, it's not. It doesn't mean it's a spirit. It doesn't mean it's anything. It's an anomaly that we don't know the reason it's there. And it could be natural, it could be it could be the camera, it could be the lenses, it could be a variety of different things. But ultimately you come down to, a shrug, and I don't know why it's there, and you leave it at that. I don't run wild with it, and then all of a sudden you have, look at the person standing there. I could see it in medieval outfits, and it's pointing at a book on the shelf. People just paint a whole story, and it's just a smudge or a blur in the picture.
And it's been really windy lately too. So that doesn't, whether you're using a tripod or holding a camera yourself, I mean, especially if you're using a tripod, the slightest wind movement, even if it's weighted down, can make a picture blurry. So, and it can create that swirling look too, just based because your lens and the, lighting, all that. So yeah, I think for all of us, basically, we kind of go a lot on feeling also what we like intuitively pick up and energetically pick up. So I don't think any of us are feeling all that much.
So our friend
What
Laura,
I see too on that photo, the first thing you see is something that looks, sketchy at best.
Yeah.
It looks like a horror movie kind of thing, and right away, that takes your mind someplace. You're automatically going down a darker road than you would normally if you had looked at any other picture. And that's like our, fight or flight, getting tricked a little bit there. It's what we're expecting to see when someone in the paranormal shows you a photo. You're already expecting to see something unusual. So a lot of it really is inside, in our heads, and projecting what we are seeing, not necessarily trusting our eyes and in what we're seeing. And that builds the feeling like you're picking something up from a photo, and maybe you are picking up some things, but are they being tainted by the subconscious of your mind that's seeing that and reacting to, what it appears to be, even though it's not?
I love Dave bringing the psychology in. I love it. Now, that being said, have you had any clients have like nature spirits follow them in and become a problem when you've had to go out and assist them?
Yeah, and I don't like dealing with that. Um, everyone has always been a house that is set on a nice piece of property, usually wooded, usually looks like a dump outside because they've just trashed the whole environment. And you can see why spirits there would be angry. Everyone but one I've done like that, the house was in a clearing that was a circle. And
Yep.
first time I saw that, I thought that was neat how they cut the trees like that. But when you see it like, 10 or more times, I always wondered if the circle, what if that was subconscious? Did someone do it intentionally? Was there something that was there before the house? They were all in New Jersey, so you're all along different areas where different, Indian encampments or settlements would have been. Um, so I mean, it could be something along those lines too. But um, there's very little you can do when you're dealing with the nature spirits. I mean, it's more adjusting the energy and trying to. In those cases, we had the people go get dumpsters and clean up the whole yard, and you know everything that they damaged, try to repair, replace the rusted car in the yard with, plant a tree, add something. Don't just clean it up, add something better. And in some of the cases that actually did make a difference. But I mean, we've gone as far as trying to bless or consecrate the ground, and if it's a nature spirit, that's not going to do anything. So there's very little that is in the playbook to go and deal with that. That's something that energy workers would come out and try to work on that. But like, when you're dealing with that large of a property, um, it's tough because some of them can just leave for a while, go to the next property, and then they can come back. I don't think there's there's like a good or bad. I think there's basically neutral. But when they see somebody that's, you know, disrespected the property for so long, even if they clean it up, maybe the spirit feels like that the punishment hasn't been enough yet, and they'll decide when that punishment's going to be over. And honestly, I don't know anyone that's ever been successful in getting rid of it. Getting it, a little less, and taking the edge off. But those kind of spirits, they do what they want, and the rules that we would normally apply to human spirits or demonic spirits, anything, they don't they don't work. So
Nor do property lines. They don't have, just because we know this is our neighbor's yard or this is where our lot ends, our property. They don't know that. That's not like that doesn't exist to them.
right.
So
Now I know it. Depending on the faith, the religion, the practice, anything that is not godly, angelic, and even certain angels will still be considered like demons. Would the nature spirits kind of fall under that category of demons
Yeah,
in
because
most
it is a
situations?
category, and they lump everything in like that. Um, Thought forms, um, anything along those lines, just energy. I don't want to say creations, but I always see them as slugs almost inside the person or on the back, and it's like leeching off some of the energy all the time. And normally we'll deal with that with Reiki. Something like that. It has nothing to do with demons that will fall into that category. Anything that people can't explain that seems bad, that's where they dump it. And it's not accurate, but a lot of people, anything bad, it's automatically something negative. I People know when they tell me something. First thing I say, in jest, is it's the devil. It's like, oh yeah, I got a flat tire, and I got a scratch on my arm. I'm like, it's the devil, you know, because that's almost what some people want to hear. But in reality, it's you need to explain things and how things work to people. And sometimes you see the light bulb go off when they understand, okay, this is a nature spirit, this is a thought form or something else. And other
Mhm.
times, it's just a glazed over look because they've already decided that this is a demon. They have to have an exorcism, and if you don't do that, you're not helping them, and they'll move on to someone who will.
Yep.
The attention seeking, right? Like we had a client for years whose son was on the spectrum, and in her mind, somebody was sending the devils after her, and that she could fix them with enough prayers and enough candles, and I'm like, that's not how this works. Like, you can't cure autism by, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe if somebody was a fifth or sixth level spirituality, reach that Christ consciousness, they could lay hands and do this, right? But I don't know any of those in our area to send him to. So, I'm like, ma'am, you're not helping him, and you're wasting a whole bunch of money, right? And those were difficult conversations to have.
Anytime we've dealt with someone that had
You're
autism,
muted.
I am muted.
No, no,
No,
no,
he's
I'm
not.
sorry.
Okay.
Kayla
No,
keeps
okay.
talking, but all I see is this.
Whenever we've dealt with people that have autism, I've noticed that well, I've always thought that maybe they're more open and they're seeing things that we're not seeing, and that's what's drawing things in. Now, that doesn't mean that the person that's seeing that is misinterpreting it normally. And there's trying to get a good description, something we can work on, or get an idea of exactly what we're dealing with is very difficult because it seems like that's always a moving target. You get one day you'll get one description of something happening, and then
Mhm.
the next time you get something completely different, and nothing ever matches up. So it makes it like really challenging to deal with that. Um, but I always just go down to the basic: is anybody being hurt? Is anything bad happening? Because if it was something bad, it could do that. Why not? And if it's not doing that, let's lean away from that and go with something else.
Mhm.
Right on cue, the black cat just jumped up here.
What I was trying to say while I had myself muted is there's definitely medical issues, right? But there's definitely things that mimic the medical issues for people too. And it might not be full autism, but there's hi kitty. But I mean that's the thing of working with kind of having a team, like figure out the medical part, figure out the spiritual part, figure out. I mean, there's food allergies that can cause things like that, but there's also spiritual encounters that can cause things like that. So, I mean, it definitely. I don't discredit her for trying, right? She tried, and you don't want to give up on your kid, but sometimes you have to understand that there's more. We all have those clients, right? Where sometimes they're just more, and they're not possessed, and there's not something major wrong with them. There's not something majorly wrong with you. It's just figuring out the balance and not always blaming it on something and being willing to hear it. Sometimes that's your best friend, is listening and hearing and being willing to take in what other people are seeing, because it's so hard to see when you're in that situation, right? Like they say, love is blind, which goes also for these kind of things, not just romance. But sometimes you just don't want to hear it and you want the simple solution. But sometimes listening and hearing there's other things going on is really the real help that you need, not the exorcism, not the candles, all that stuff. Sometimes you really just have to hear the outside.
And sometimes you really you have to chip away to that to get them to hear it. And that's why they go from person to person to person, and that's why it's always very important to always be truthful, which, Dave, that's what you're talking about too, is being truthful over the situation. Because if you're not helping that person. Yes, maybe they won't listen. If I say something, maybe they won't listen to me. But if they go, okay, I don't believe you, I still think there's an issue, I'm going to Dave, and Dave says the same thing, and then leaves Dave and goes to Kayla, and then Melissa, eventually it's going to click and go, oh, shoot, I'm hearing it now. So, and you're right. I have come across those clients as well. And I've lost clients because of that. Because the one thing I can say is I I'm a healer, but I don't heal medical issues that need attention. I can point somebody in that direction, but a lot of times they don't want to listen. Yours is you're working with demons, Dave, and trying to make them understand. Sometimes it's not demons,
And that's very difficult for some people to, you know. Sometimes it's difficult for people to understand because they already have their mind made up based on YouTube and TV, that everything behind a door is something demonic. So trying to talk them out of it is um is difficult. And yeah, I remember John Zaffis telling me one time he had this client call up and had all this problem, and then they he gave him his opinion, and they immediately shot it down and told him he didn't know what he was talking about. And he was like, just, why did you call me then? If I don't know what I'm talking about, why did you call me at all? And that's that's one of the frustrating things about dealing with that, because those kind of people have that already put up front, and you're not able to find out if there's something really happening because they're already on the defensive when you get there. And it is like, well, if you don't want the help, why did you call me? I'm laying out, these are things you need to stop doing, or just stop, take a breath and listen, and we'll give you our opinion. Let us, do a few things and investigate a little bit and see what we can come up with. And they don't want to wait. They already have their mind made up. And unfortunately, they're going to find someone probably that they're going to have to pay. It's going to come out and do, the whole pomp and circumstance and all that. And it's not going to do anything. But because they paid for it, they feel maybe they're getting a more professional, a more, someone that can achieve that, not the free person that's, charging nothing. And it becomes frustrating overall because having a resolution in those kind of cases is not common. More cases wound up being either a stalemate or a loss than something successful. And I think when you're going into dealing with the negative stuff, you have to learn to accept that. You have to know when to say enough. You have to know when to stop. Have to know when to walk away. And it took me years to understand that, and calling, people who are my people, I looked up to, that I learned from, and say, how do you know when to say when? And they always said, you'll know. You know when you know. And it just takes a long time to get to that. Because I frustrate the people on my team because I'll say, look, we're done with this. And they fight me every time. And I know what they're thinking because I was there before too. But you just reach a point where you're not helping. And you need to be able to say, hey, look, maybe you need to try something else or try someone else. We've gone as far as we can go with it.
Right.
Try to kind of nicely refer them to someone else or back away when that doesn't work that often either. So they take it like abandonment. But
Yeah.
we
They
could
get
sit there
extra
and
clingy sometimes. Some of them just like they latch onto, and like they don't
yeah,
want to hear it, but they just like latch into, and they don't want to work with anybody, or they want to go to other people, and they want to compare you to people. It's sometimes it's a very ironic thing, I guess, right? They trust you so much, but then they don't want to hear it. They trust you for other people, but not themselves. And
one of the keys in
Mhm.
doing that, it was another thing that was very, very hard to learn, is that you can't have an emotional attachment. You can't. I mean, you can. I look at they are people that need help, and I want to help them. I do not want to have, a new friend. I
mm-hmm.
don't want to have any kind of outside connection whatsoever. Um, Maybe they have a job or something I'm interested in, or they have a hobby that I'm interested in. You walk in the house and it's like, oh, I like this room. I keep that all inside and then just push it aside, because if you build a connection, you're attaching cords to that person and to the situation, and you're not someone now that can help. You're part of the situation. You're part you're a client now. And I see people, I it's human nature. You feel for them, you want to help them, but
Sure.
you have to know when to be able to hold back and build that wall. And I know when I'm done with a case, or in between different legs of a case, I kind of just erase it. And when I'm going back, I have to refresh myself of where did we leave off, what's going on here. I don't take that work home. I mean, my wife rarely ever knows any of the cases or anything about anything I'm doing because I don't bring it home. I leave it outside the house, and when I have to pick it up again, if I have to review some things, that's fine. But creating that cord is, I mean, how many cases you're going to do that you're going to have all these cords coming to you until you're a client anyway? You can
Right.
emotionally and psychologically and spiritually, you can
Mhm.
only take so much, and the more you connect yourself to negativity, the negativity is going to start sticking.
Yeah, you said emotion, and I'm glad that you said that because one of my questions was going to be if you are getting emotionally attached in situations like yours, are you opening yourself for that attachment? And I guess what
Absolutely.
I'm hearing is absolutely. Now, my other question is, early on, did you experience that? And did is that how you learned that? Or
The hard way is that
were you always, you had that,
I learned it. I learned it the hard way.
Mhm.
Um, People who do this and are, I guess, really down in the trenches, that are dealing with the negative stuff all the time. It's not uncommon that we do get attachments, we get affected, and that means, in my case, it was trips up to Connecticut, to see Uncle John and his team for an exorcism. I've had 3 exorcisms performed on me, and I'm okay with that. I needed to get rid of some stuff that had attached to me. But in one instance that I point out when I do my class, it was simple to avoid it. I just chose not to, and I didn't realize that was how much I was opening myself up. I thought I could just dust it off, say some prayers, and do all that, and it would cut that connection, and it didn't. So I was part of the case now without realizing it was until it went far enough that I needed the same help that the client did. And we were
Mhm.
going up in two different cars. We were taking the client up to Connecticut to have something done, and I'm in another car going to the same place so I could have something done. And sometimes it takes that to learn that lesson. I mean, that was a hard way to learn it, but I at least can give that example of letting people know that this is what could happen to you. I'll be the poster child. You don't let go, you get too emotionally attached, this can be the outcome. And is that worth it? Because I could no longer help that person. And maybe I could have, but I opened myself up too far and got in too deep. And unfortunately, you know, things can escalate very quickly from there.
Mhm. Now you also said that you could have avoided that? How could you have avoided that? Uh,
Knowing what I know now, of not
okay,
creating
gotcha.
that emotional, but like I said, you learn that the hard way.
Right.
Because after you have something done, you're sitting down and talking with the people, the other team or whoever did that, and they're giving you the critique of what you did and how
Gotcha.
you let it, and I was open enough to know that, I obviously don't know everything. I obviously had a problem. I'm going to listen to what they say as how I got there because I
Sure.
was curious enough to know how I got there anyway. And
Mhm.
listening to the people that have been doing it a lot longer than I have, and then just applying it, yeah, it did make a difference. I
Mhm.
could see just in my clarity and my ability to help people and like stay focused because I was being that person that was, not connecting. You know, the people are unaware that you're not connecting. You can be friendly and pleasant, and have conversations with them, but you don't have to make that one final attachment. You can remain just a business. It's almost like a business
Yeah.
Mhm.
transaction.
I always say it's like being a duck. You can be in the situation, but the water rolls off you, right? Ducks can go under the water, they can float, they can do whatever, but they don't absorb the water. They stay buoyant. And that's kind of how I always refer to it. It's like just be a duck. You can be part of it, you
That's a
can
good
do the things you
analogy.
have
I
to
like
do,
that.
but don't let it in past your feathers, basically, and or a
Mhm.
wetsuit, whatever. I like the duck
Mhm.
thing, but but
Well,
your other oh sorry.
go ahead.
I like the point of we all, no matter how long we've been doing this or how we practice, because all four of us do things differently. It's really important to have people you trust around you that are gonna call you out if something's going wrong, and you don't be in denial about that, right? You hear that, but also know you can only clear so much from yourself, and whether it's like medical feeling type things or like spiritual attachments, sometimes there's things we with our own subconscious are holding on to even though we think we're getting rid of it. So to have somebody else that you can trust to be like, hey, I think we've all done that at some point, reached out to somebody and be like, hey, can you check this, because I've been clearing myself, I've done all these things, but something still feels off, something around me is still not going right, something within me feels weird. And it's really important to like not be too egotistical to know that sometimes you do need help from other people.
That's
And that
critical.
Yeah.
second half that you were talking about was what I was going to say is I feel the exact same way. You,
It was
as
telepathic.
humans, as humans, we make mistakes. We will, and we know as all of us do our own sort of healing. We know that we need to not have that connection because it could hurt us. But being human, sometimes you can't help yourself, and it happens. And the ego, you have to drop the ego. I mean, if you've got an ego, you shouldn't be doing it. Period. That's my opinion, and I'm very blunt on that. Boom. You know, Melissa, I've come to you how many times and said, "Hey, I think this is going on. What do you think?" So I'm not afraid for feedback. Just at our last wine and spirits that we did was a few weeks ago. I got on a Reiki table with another healer because I was like, you know what? Something doesn't feel right. And as since we're all sensitive to that, we can pick up on that, and we can go to the people that we know, like you said, Dave. We've got a good circle of friends, and we can go to them, and we can get the help that we need too. Just because we're healers doesn't mean we don't need healed too.
Right.
There, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox now.
You know, that's very well put, because that's important. The ego is something that it's a weak spot,
It's your worst
and
enemy. It really
it,
is.
Yes.
the negative spirits will attack that. They'll go right for that if they know that that's something that they can, trigger you on. I even bring on my team. There's some people that don't necessarily believe in any of this, which I don't know why they're in the ghost hunting field anyway. I guess trying to find something that they can believe in. But I like having them on the team because I call them the safety valve, because they're
Mhm.
going to call BS on what they're seeing, and if they're saying something's not right, I immediately listen to them, and because they have no dog in the fight. They don't think this is a real thing anyway. So when they notice something's not right, that says something, and I need to step back. But you have to listen to everybody that you're working with. If someone says, "Hey, you got to stop," I stop and find out why they want me to stop. I don't just keep going, with my ego. I know what I'm doing. We could talk about this later. That's a trap. You have to, even though it seems like you're stopping and starting, and it makes it look like maybe you don't know what you're doing. In my mind, it makes you look like you are taking time to make sure you're clear on every single step and everything that everything you're doing to help that person. Even if it takes a little bit longer, you're taking steps that and everybody agrees on. There's no things that pop up that are questionable. I prefer to move at a slower speed just so I don't miss anything. And yes, that takes longer to get the people help, but if I miss something, I could be doing damage instead of helping. And
Correct.
that's something that you want to avoid. And if that means it takes longer to help the person, so be it.
You're muted, Melissa.
This time I am, because I was clicking
Welcome back.
away, updating things. Um, Now I know, Dave, you've talked before about how you vet your team coming on, but I'm curious, how do you vet your skeptics to make sure they're just not going to call complete bullshit on everything, that they might still be like, I can't explain it, but that is weird. Like, how do you sort out your skeptics who can join you?
They've all been part of the team. They've all been people that everyone comes to the ghost hunting part of it because they're looking for answers. So the people that are saying they don't believe in it, they're doing this. They're looking for something. They're not admitting that they're looking for anything, but obviously they don't have that spare time where they just feel like going out and doing stuff they don't believe in. It doesn't make any sense. So as you build like a rapport with them, and you have a trust that they're going to, you know, they're going to call it if they see it, because it's something that if they can't explain it, that's when I try to explain it. If you can't explain it, looks something that's sketchy, not right, then just pull the plug and let us go back and regroup. Maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing, but I'd rather err on the side of caution. And I just noticed that those people are looking a lot more intently and seeing everything. After you do this for a while, you can be inside the box and not looking outside the box. You're
Mhm.
you're already tainted by a point of view. I want someone who's not tainted at all. They already think this is, at least what they say. They think it's nonsense, but if they're still interested, they're looking for something, so they are paying more attention, and that's why I call them the safety valve, because there's plenty of times that everyone on my team's been totally aboard, and we know what we're doing, and we're going to keep going forward, and the one person said, something's not right, something doesn't look right, and we'll all stop and pull back, because then now we have to have a discussion. Now we have to figure out where we're going, and you know were we doing something wrong? Were we causing something to happen? Um, I'd rather take that time and step back and talk to everybody and make sure we all get on the same page before we go ahead. Because when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, I mean, even with energy work and everything, you can do damage if you're not being careful. And you have to do that due diligence, even when it takes longer to get some kind of result.
You know, and the interesting thing that I found about skeptics, I think we've got a fine line here. We have skeptics and we have non-believers. It's like the agnostic and the atheist.
Hmm.
And the agnostic is the skeptic. The skeptic believes in something, they just don't know what, and they're leery of evidence because they they need that evidence to be able to understand that there is something more than that. So I agree with you 100% about having skeptics available, because they're the ones that are so logically set in their mind that they are opening up sometimes the obvious, you know, and putting a stop to it. Now, complete non-believers, I, I think there's just that fine line. Skeptics, on the other hand, like I said, they're good for the team, you know, because we have skeptics. Well, I'm married to one, um, which leads to some fun in the house at times, you know, the battles. But yeah, they do. They help to keep us to see things that sometimes we don't see so well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't
I
know if
was
I was explaining myself well.
I was going to ask you, Kathy, if Gary would be one of your potential skeptics, because he also, I think, does like home remodel and everything. Because you and I have talked. I'm like, there was a show out years ago. It was Canadian, the Paranormal Home Inspector, and they would send out the skeptic or the non-believer who he would go in first, check your doors, make sure they're levels, check your piping, you know. And there was only once or twice where he's like, "Yeah, I don't know how that happened. It makes no sense." So
I'm
does
not sure.
Gary kind of fall into that?
I don't consider Gary to be a skeptic. Skeptic, or he is a believer. He is a believer in a lot of this. And but I think when, as far as what you're talking about, Melissa, that's his profession. Those are two different levels. Skeptic is you you're just skeptical of everything. But with Gary, he has a profession, and his profession is to go in and check things and refurbish them and restore them and all of that. That's his knowledge. So when we send him in, we're saying, "Hey, Gary, we need, don't go in and look for haunted," because that's how our team works. We don't go looking for hauntings. We go in looking for what is causing the issue. So Gary's expertise is that his profession. So we send Gary in, and Gary's like, "Well, heck, they need new electrical stuff. There were, you know, there's high EMFs all over the place and stuff like that." But if Gary goes in and he's checking everything and he can't find anything, then we're like, "Yeah, maybe we need to go in and do an investigation." So, skeptic, no. Professional, yes.
Gotcha.
But that's important. A lot of teams don't do that. Um, when we go and do our preliminary visit after we got in the questionnaire, and even just for the normal cases, we go in and we're not debunking, we're just looking for explanation. And if there's a natural explanation, then there's a natural explanation. It's when you can't explain it and you run out of natural causes that now we put that in the category of, unexplained. And that's what the investigation would focus on. And we've done, again, our due diligence. We've gone through everything that could naturally cause it. And then we at least have eliminated that from being reasons for the activity.
Mhm.
I do like the idea of the skeptic. And our friend Chris had gave us the comment about like sometimes they're the ones that find the most memorable things happening, and probably because they are looking so hard at everything that they're going to notice, and maybe that's what everybody then goes, "Holy cow, what about this?" See if I can get that to show back up
On
on.
a note, as a client, if you have us come in, do not give us a hard time for investigating those kind of things, because I think we've all had those kind of clients also, where you're supposed to be here doing this. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you checking my doors? Why are you checking where there's drafts? That's literally part of our job. We're not there just to our purpose, if you will. We're not there just to prove that there's paranormal stuff. We're literally trying to resolve the problems around you, around your house, around your land. Like, it's not just all about the spiritual stuff. There are other things that need to be addressed.
Well, you know,
That's plain and
it's
simple.
the mental health aspect of it. You
Absolutely.
don't know how anxious, you know, someone is over something, and that you come in and you're not. They take it as maybe you're not believing what they're saying. You know, and I make sure that we believe you. We believe that you're experiencing what you say you're experiencing. Now, maybe we can find a reason that that is happening. That doesn't say you're not experiencing anything. So we're just eliminating certain things. That way we can focus on what may be the true, paranormal event that's occurring in the house. If you don't do that in a way that adds in being aware of that client that's really pushy and maybe wants something quicker, that's, to me, I always take it as that's the anxiety talking.
Yeah.
That's something that's pushing that. And they probably wouldn't be that pushy. It's just the anxiety that brings that out because they're so desperate to have an answer that they don't want to wait. They want you to walk in the door and immediately hand them a report of everything before you've done anything. Um, and just explaining it to them that you're not looking for natural causes to say there so we can explain what they're experiencing. We're doing our due diligence. So if we can eliminate a few things by natural causes, then we're focusing on the things we can explain instead of wasting our time looking at a broader range of things, some which are explainable. You have to be able to narrow down to know exactly where you want to focus. And I think when you explain that, that helps lower the anxiety, being transparent about every step of the way and everything that you're doing.
If we clear your house and the door still squeaks or something still goes on, you're going to be mad at us because we didn't address that and there's not something going on, right? People think, oh, well, you didn't fix this and the door still squeaks or this still moves or this picture still turns. And that's a big part of not the only reason, but it's part of the reason why we go through all these things. But we do a lot, any of us, right, in our own ways. When you go in and I don't think clients really get to hear that part. We're evaluating you. We're not judging you at all. We're evaluating how you're handling the things. And if there are people with mental illnesses that experience these things. There's so much that we have to do all at one time. We're checking out the actual things in your house, like, the physical things that we just talked about as far as structure or function of things, and you yourself, the spiritual part of it. It's, I think, when you see the things on TV where it's like black and white, people come in, they do their job, they experience paranormal things, and that's it. And that's not really our experience. Our end of it, we're like 4 people all in one package coming in to help.
Now, the ones that aggravate me the most are the ones that come in with their K2 meter, and when it blinks, they go, "Oh, your place is haunted. Oh my God, you got to sell." It's like, oh, really? Come on, people.
We call those drinking games. Every time they say it's haunted because the light goes off or something.
Well, and it's awful because we've come across those people, and Dave, I know you have too. Come across those people that are terrified because someone came in and did that. And it's an easy fix. It's an easy fix. It's sad.
A lot of those people that are doing that and the teams that are doing that, they're creating the sensationalism. They want that because that's the reason they're there, not to help somebody. They're there to have an experience. Even when it's based on nothing, like the K2 meter, it goes off. Did you find it? Did you check then to see if there's any natural sources that could be causing it to go off? Or do you just run around watching the light blink and then say, well, you get a lot of spirits in every room? Now, it's just a difference of being, it's a difference between learning from people who know what they're doing or learning from watching, TV shows or YouTube. Not the greatest place to find out, get your information on, how to do things.
I saw a funny meme a few weeks back, and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have saved it to show on air. It pretty much said, like, I'd rather have a ghost than things to fix in the house because the ghost would be cheaper. you know? And I'm like,
Very true.
yeah, depending on the age of the house. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like once you fix one thing, something else, something else, something else, something else. And I'm like, the ghost is cheaper, you know?
You can break a couple light bulbs or whatever. Fine, cool. We'll call it even.
Right. You know.
Not the big things.
If anybody has any questions or stories you'd like to share, get Dave's opinion. We got a few minutes left with Dave and maybe his kitty cat and puppers. I don't know where kitty cat went. Um,
Everything's quiet right now. They're all just sleeping, so that's good.
chilled. Yeah, mine's sunbathing. He's charging his solar power batteries over there in the front window, um, enjoying his sunshine while he has it.
Vitamin D at its best.
Right? The first time I remember my son when he realized that most black cats are actually just a really, really dark brown, and you see that in the sunlight. He's like, he's been gaslighting us this whole time. He's really brown, and I'm like, but um, no, Dave, we're going to have you in the Mansfield area, or actually, no, Cleveland. I was thinking Mansfield for a séance that we have with Gregory Nicholas coming up here soon, and a benefit dinner with him. But we're going to have you in the Strongsville area in November. You're going to do your intro to demonology class. I'm selfishly excited. We're having this class because A, it's interesting. We get you in the area, and C, because I want to take it. So now your class is what about? We were talking about like 4, 5, maybe 6 hours ish, depending on
It
question.
depends on the amount of questions and interactions with people. I mean, I've been able to, get it done in 3 hours when you have this, people that are just sitting there and they don't have any questions, they're not interjecting anything. But and I've had it go like 5 hours too, where you have people that are, questioning everything. And I prefer, honestly, to be questioned. I I'd rather not just because I'm not I'm giving the class based on my experience. Maybe you have a different experience. You're a different person. You've been to different places, dealt with different spirits. So you aren't necessarily going to see things the way I'm seeing them. It's making that by putting that out there, it allows us to both kind of match up things, even though it's different. There still are, themes and things that match up, and that kind of helps people understand. Um, because it's not that simple. That's why I think I'm the only one that's crazy enough to do the class, because I base it just on me. The theory and all the other stuff, they're just theories. I mean, you can run down the infestation, oppression, possession. That's how I learned it. 3 steps. They're up to like 8 or 9 steps now. There's like 1A, 1B. I mean, it gets a little, ridiculous at some point. You're over analyzing. Um, and that's something that, again, that would be like a good conversation to have. Why did those people who added more steps? Maybe there is a valid reason that they did it. Let me
Mhm.
understand that. So let's talk. I think when you're having a class like that where you're just not talking at the people and they're included in the conversation, it winds up being a lot more valuable, and you wind up remembering more. Some stuff
Mhm.
you can walk away with and you can apply to what you're doing.
And that's exactly why you want to take his class, because he checks his ego at the door and he listens. I mean, I'm definitely planning on going there and taking the class and everything, because you know what, knowledge is power. It's good. It's good information to have, especially those teams that are out there that don't understand a lot of this. They need to understand it to be able to go out and do the investigating or what have you.
Just for safety
So
reasons, if anything.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yes, I agree. So great. I recommend Dave's class to anyone and everyone. If you can make it, because
Can
you're
we
going to
put
be
the date
learning
in the
from a great,
comments?
honest, credible guy.
Date and
Yeah.
location in the comments, actually. People are asking.
It's November 14th, and it will be at the Ville Air Golf Club. You can find all of the info not only on the website but also our Facebook list of events. Um, so we're excited. We're excited. The area. the golf club area that we're going to do this. Really pretty building, a lot of nice calming nature around it. So, um, Dave, you give like a bit of a lunch break, if needed. So you can go outside and nature, absorb, think of more questions, come in, re-interact.
Do a little
Uh,
grounding.
We'll turn
yeah.
into demons if we get hangry, right?
Yeah.
The demons will come out then.
Go smack some balls if you're really mad about some info you learned. But November 14th is when Dave's class will be going on with us, and it'll be it's like considered Hinkley, but it's like right on the edge of, I call it Strongsville. Because again, property lines invisible, nobody knows where they're at. Just like nature spirits, I don't know what
go by.
I'm in.
Humans have all the stupid rules.
Now, let me see. Now, Dave, you have the Ghost Hunter store. Lots of cool stuff that they can get with you through their information, contact info. Remind me, Dave, do you have a regular podcast that you do?
We did, but we just discontinued it. We're not as professional as you guys. It winds up being a real, it winds up being a very, very unprofessional. Normally the first 15 minutes is trying to get someone's camera to work, or someone's muted. And by then, anyone that was tuning in to watch it live has already left because we spent 15 minutes of the time just doing that. And there's very little time left to actually do an interview. And we say next week will be better, and we're not. So I just kind of gave it up.
I credit Melissa and Kathy for all that because I am horrible at any of those things. So they kindly do not ever ask me because they know it's just going to be a bigger disaster if they ask me for help with anything.
I try to act like I know what I'm doing. Sometimes I can pull it off. Other times I'm like, well, it is what it is. Here we are. But yeah, the Ghost Hunter store, I put the link in the comments if anybody would like to go see that or visit, see what you have.
I did just put up a post on the Dave Juliano on Facebook. There's another one, David Juliano, that's like that person that I don't know, like a promo page. I don't ever use it, but my personal one is out there. I just put a post up with all the different links of events that I'm going to be at for the rest of the year. So if anyone wants to go on my Facebook and follow me or just take a look at that, you'll be able to see a lot of the different stuff. It's the busy time of the year that's starting now.
Yeah,
July through November, it's something almost every week.
I did see your post this morning. You're like, for the OGs, the paranormal people with 30 years plus experience out in the field, what do you miss most about the old days? And when I checked back on it at the start of our live, and I'm like, there are a lot of comments and interaction and what I found, one of the first ones in there that I loved was like the no bickering. And
all the pre social media. We, for the most part, I'd say like 90% of the teams all worked well together. And we did, meet up and have both like two teams investigate a different place so we could share what they've got. And they're going to do something a little different than we are, and then you can you learn something from each other, and then you can share evidence. This is how they got it, this is what we did, anything match up. That used to be something that we did all the time. That was what was common, not saying that we're all one big happy family when you can spend just 2 minutes on Facebook and find out that's not really the case. Even the people who promote that and go with, para-unity or any of the other cute little terms that they use, sometimes they're just as guilty of working against
Usually
that.
More.
Yeah.
That was my big shocker when I started working with paranormal teams. I was like, I felt like I got completely blindsided. I'm like, what is it? And that's why I totally backed away from things, because like you'd go work with one team, they were like totally trash talking another team, or if you didn't pick up anything as a medium, not picking up anything, or and all the equipment was dead and everything, they'd go trash talk you or post things on your business page or your Facebook. I'm like, what is this? Like, I'm not cut out for this. Like, I'm just not, I was not expecting that, and all the Facebook attacks and stuff. It's like high school sometimes, and
Yeah, sometimes
So-
it's worse than high school, but
Yeah.
that I always, whenever I see a post and then someone brings it to me and said, "Did you see this?" And it's something that's not a great way to perceive the paranormal, because we're all part of it. So I just tell them, "Hey, they were our peers," and make it a little bit of a joke out of it because there's there's not much we can do. We're not going to go backwards. This is how it is. There's not going to be a sudden, where everyone's going to come together, kumbaya and everything. This is it. We can't go back in the past. So we can reminisce, but there's there's not going to be a major shift putting us back. Social media and egos and chasing, the dollar is
Mm.
what drives a good portion of the paranormal. They're not in it for just helping people or just simple curiosity. What happens when you die? Is it just the lights out and that's it? Or is there something else? And, when I joined, other than trying to find out what happened to me when I was a kid, that was my main goal, was to find out, you know, is there something after? Now I am 100%. I know that when you die, it's not just the end. There's something goes on. I've seen too much. I've had too much, even with the equipment, to show me that there is something beyond, death. And that's, no one's looking forward to death, obviously, but it's comforting to know that that's not the end of the story. And that does take a little bit of edge off. And that was my journey. That was my reason for, really getting into this. And then somehow I found myself doing the demon stuff, and it's unexplainable because that's the last thing in the world I'd want to do.
It's like you took a side quest and just kept going. Like,
Yeah, I didn't know I was on the side quest though. That's the thing. I didn't know till I was,
You have not
already
completed
on
the
it.
level yet.
Like, wow, how'd that happen?
well, an update came out to your side quest, and off you went, and you are
Someone could have clued me in though. That would have been nice. With this,
right.
what trajectory am I on? I guess no matter what, I would have wound up where I am. I really believe that the universe or whatever that has a, whether it's a plan of some sort that you're supposed to get to something. I everywhere I've looked, every step, even just when I did law enforcement, I have that skill set now of interviewing people in a different way. I'm looking at body language. I'm looking at the cadence. I'm looking at how they interact with other people in the house. All those things that maybe other people don't pick up on, but I learned it from previous jobs. And that all build up to now where I'm at. All those past skills I can apply. And if I didn't go through them, I would be missing something that's, critical to what I do. So
Mhm.
that's another reason I do the class too, because not everybody has that, and I'd rather give them some tools that they can use, you know, to prevent something from happening, to say, get their team out of there, or to try to help somebody.
I can't wait for the class. Yeah, so November 14th, guys, mark it down. It'll be at the Ville Air Golf Club. They're in the Strongsville Hinkley line, wherever that line is.
Which means nothing to
Uh,
me in this area. I have no clue.
yeah, I was going to say, Kayla, do you need to come up and visit?
I'm going to
take-
check my schedule and see.
Well, that's up near Lorraine, right? Or
Ish,
Elyria. Yeah, 'cause I
ish.
know Lorraine. We did the St. Joe's.
Oh, yeah.
Put up a
No,
map.
it's not in that area. No,
Because I know that was like on the outskirts
close,
of
but no,
Cleveland too.
it's not by the hospital.
Hey, Jenny. It's in a radius, if you will.
Mhm.
It's not like horribly far or anything at all.
I've
So
been
don't
telling
worry.
people
Closer east,
it's in the
further
Cleveland
west.
area.
There you go.
That's best thing
Yeah.
to say.
East or
Really?
west of Cleveland, or where your
Yeah.
shop is. We can go to that. East or west of the shop. South.
Right. Yeah. If the lake is, it'd be like a little bit east-ish, if my internal compass is working correctly and
And
picturing
don't
maps.
ask me because I am
How far from the
directionally
shop?
challenged.
That's how I find north. Where am I compared to Lake Erie? Okay.
Right. That's what I do here too. Yeah. Well, Lake Ontario is our north, and then Lake Erie's our east, but right where I'm at. But
Well,
How far
thanks
from
for
the shop
joining.
is it?
Uh, probably about 20, 25
Oh,
minutes,
that's not
depending on
horrible.
which way you go. So,
Beautiful area.
yeah, yeah, it's more of some of that time is like once you get off the main highway, then it's like the lights and the city traffic that's going to take
Gotcha.
that bit of time. Um, so yeah, it's not horribly far. It's don't worry, Dave. I know you like staying in a certain area, so it's not going to put you like forever away. You'll um, but
I'm,
it's in
I
that
always,
that
I we've stayed every time I've been in the area. We've always stayed in Illyria. And I don't know if it's just 'cause it's a cool name or what, but I always just felt drawn there. It was something's there that's bringing me to that area for a reason, I think.
there's a lot of history and older buildings and everything in parts of Illyria and Lorraine. Um, so I don't know if Kathy, you got a ghost hunt coming up, but what we've been talking about, Dave Juliano, Deliverance Demonologist Guru, is going to be doing a class, Intro to Demonology, in November. So, if you are into the paranormal and investigations, definitely a class to consider. How to keep yourself and your team safe, out of trouble, know what to look for. And Dave, you're not only going to just go over here's what demons are, here's the levels, you're also going to go over some psychology, how to vet the people, um, the mental health aspect as well
That
with
stuff about like the ratings and levels and stuff, that's everyone can go read that, you know, in a book or look it up. It's that's not the important part. It's the understanding all the stuff that you may encounter. And basically, I'm going to give you all the mistakes I made along the way. And it's a map. It's the map of the landmines. Now you could choose to disregard that now and get blown up or go through all that. Or you can just take my word for some things and maybe just avoid something. And no one wants to have that moment where they realize that they're on a case and they realize, oh yeah, I remember what Dave said, and we're in the middle of it. Yeah, that's not a great position to be in. And I was in that position multiple times, and I don't wish it on anyone. So now I try to give the people some tools that can help them avoid it before they've been 2 hours on an investigation somewhere. When it's a little
right.
late, you're already in it.
You know what, Kathy? Maybe we need to get Dave in and do an investigation either at, OSR or somewhere. And, you know,
In other words, they're saying take a week and stay in Ohio, is what I heard.
Ah, yeah, November is a very, very bad month. So we couldn't do it in November, is what I'm saying, especially at OSR because they're shut down for the paranormal program for the months of September, October, November, and then December. We really don't do ghost hunts because of Blood Prison or commercial haunted house. That's a lot of fun. But we would need to look at something in the future. Plus, we have other locations as well, so we could take you all over the place.
yeah, gonna
Get a
say I
bus.
know
The
Dave,
woo
you've
woo
got a
bus.
lot
Back to
coming
the
up.
woo woo
Out of
bus.
all the states I do stuff in, I do more in Ohio than I do anywhere else. So I don't mind the drive anymore. It's depending on where it is. I think like OSR is like 7.5 hours. But
Mhm.
like we know all the rest stops. We know, when we're going through the tunnels, we know what the next one is coming up is because we've just gone so many times. It's like just automatic. So I don't mind going out there. I really like it's Ohio is just different with the cluster and the concentration of haunted locations. There's really no place that is like that. I mean, you can like at one you can throw a stone and hit another one. They're just all over the place.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if it's from all of the lakes, all of
I
the
was just gonna say
water.
the lakes because my area, right? I'm in Western New York, so Buffalo area, like in there, Niagara Falls, that area, and it's a very active area itself too. But it's kind of different than the other side of the state. So
Yeah, I think that the water definitely would play something into it because that's huge. I know the in the bottom of New Jersey, Cape May, where it's like it's the peninsula sticking out. That's crazy, haunted. We dealt with someone when we first went down years ago, and the lady told us, she goes, 90% of the buildings here are haunted, but only 20% of the people will talk about it. Yeah, that was back when you didn't mention hauntings because you're afraid to chase people away. Now they promote it a little differently, but it's a very haunted town because it's surrounded on three sides, by the ocean.
Makes sense, though.
The water does affect that.
All the settlements that have been there, whether it's like early civilizations or Western civilization, that whole thing is, that was all along waterfronts, whether it was the canals and rivers and whatever, and so it does make sense. Plus the Great Lakes being so deep and all their ancient, right, their prehistoric history.
I'm starting a list of Dave investigation spots in Ohio.
Next year's booked for you. You can stop your scheduling now.
Well, I was automatically thinking, Dave, I know you're busy fall time and everything else, and then winter. So probably springish, right? I'm assuming. And one of my first thoughts, maybe, I don't know if you've been out there, Kathy, the Merry-Go-Round Museum in Sandusky. It's got its own activity, and it's got all of the creepy, I call them dead horses, the horses and the animals from the merry-go-rounds, and it's got the active working merry-go-round. But when Cedar Point is closed, they store Cedar Point's haunted horse in the building as well. It's a pretty building, but very much stuff. It's one of the first locations that I've been in that I kept getting nauseous, and I had to go sit outside while Marianne was doing her thing. And I'm like,
we did an episode about this early on.
No.
Check back on.
Yeah. But, so Dave, we'll have to keep in touch, try and plan something for springtime.
Definitely.
When it's safe to travel from your area, because weather and Mother Nature and winter sometimes refuses to let go, right? So, but thanks for joining, everybody. Thank you, Dave, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
We will have Michael with us next week. He is manager and I guess caretaker-ish, if you will, of Franklin Castle. So he will be with us next week. So if you can, please join us starting at 10 a.m. But thanks for joining, everybody, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye. See you next week. Dave, hope to see you at your class. I'll try to arrange that.
Sounds good.